The following podcast contains coarse language and adult themes. This week on the show, we're chatting those magnificently metaphoric and mildly misunderstood Marvel mutants in all their forms, as we kick off our three-part series on the Very Merry X-Men. I'm Reegs.
I'm Addy.
And this is the Film Addicts Podcast. Hey folks, and welcome back to the Film Addicts Podcast. I'm here with Addy. What's up, mate?
I am doing good. Happy New Year to everyone listening, because this is going to go out in the new year.
It absolutely will, yeah. There's still one more to come out before this one, but that's okay. So yeah, we're getting into 2023. 2022's been a blast. But I just thought we might just chat about something real quick. Is that all right with you, Addy? Do you mind if I just vent a little bit real quickly?
Absolutely.
So we had a conversation about this the other day, and no disrespect to any of the people on particularly IG, but all social media and all media outlets at this particular time. But this fucking, how do I put it? This gotcha film journalism, this Schadenfreude journalism, I just can't get on board with it anymore. The recent sort of negativity around films' performances, particularly Babylon, which just came out. I think it came out on Boxing Day. It came out. It did badly in its opening weekend, and all of a sudden it's a bomb. People are asking, is Margie? I like Margie. That's fine. Is Margot Robbie over? Like, what are you talking about? It's fucking been out a day, and give people an opportunity to go. And even if it does end up being a bomb, do you know what else was a bomb? Fucking Fight Club. All right? These things find their audience. They take on new forms. They become popular in streaming. We're still, technically COVID season 3, guys, so maybe people aren't keen to go out on a Boxing Day release. The film does go for 3 hours, which, tests people, even though so does Avatar, but Margot Robbie's not blue in her picture, so I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. But I think people want to hear this stuff. It seems to be 99.999 at infinitum% of the stories that are being reported on in film journalism are negative stories about things failing, about studios not producing stuff and all this, and the craft, the art of what this thing that we all love is being completely lost in the minutia. So much so that like Avatar: Way of Water, is doing very, very well. But that's all I'm hearing. I'm not hearing. No one's telling me if it's good or not, or if it's a good story. It's all about box office returns, and of course that doesn't really mean anything in the long term. If a movie does well, that doesn't necessarily mean it's good. It just means everyone's going to see it. So what I kind of want to do is think about what we want to do moving forward. So in our Nerd News segment, we're no longer going to include these negative headlines. We're going to have joy and wonderment and gratitude about film and nerd stuff, because that's what I want to put out there. If you want to continue to get this clickbait stuff and get people to go and look at your post because it is saying something negative, fill your boots. Like, that's your decision to do it. I just don't want to be a part of that cycle anymore. The world is bleak enough. Let's not go ruining movies at the same time. So, as I said, moving forward, let's be positive. Let's look at this stuff and go, hey, yes, this is amazing, this stuff, and it's so great that we get to see it. And I'm reminded, and we'll get to this when we get into what are we watching. But I recently watched Ted Lasso, which is a beautifully positive and life-affirming show. It's got this great sense of warmth about it. It has high Apple TV level American production values with really British sensibility. And there's a great a scene in that where Ted talks about him being misunderstood his whole life, or being underestimated his whole life. And he quotes Walt Whitman. And the quote is, "Be curious, not judgmental." Like, if you see an article, and let's not make any qualms about it, folks. If you post an article saying that Babylon has done bad in its opening weekend, people will make a decision based on that. They will go, oh, well, I'm not going to go and see it then if no one else is. It's obviously not good. Which, that one person who doesn't go and see it, it might be their favourite movie in the long term. These kind of decisions hurt box office. Reporting on box office hurts it. If you don't like the movie, write a review. Write a succinct review describing the things you didn't like about it and why you don't think it's successful, and what you could have done better, perhaps. Don't just go, it's not doing well. C. It's got a C on Rotten Tomatoes. Who fucking cares? Rotten Tomatoes is about as accurate as a blind archer, and not like a cool one who's got some sort of sensibility like Daredevil. I mean, just a blind person trying to use a bow and arrow. So, yeah, be curious, not judgmental. Curious as in, why isn't it doing it well? Why are people not going out to see it? Maybe I'll go out and see it and make up my own fucking mind instead of being judgmental off the bat. So, I love you all, friends. Keep doing what you're doing. If it makes you happy, that's fine. But me and Addy, we're going to change gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about, in the nerd news, some awesome shit that's going down. So that's my rant. Thanks for giving me the platform to do that, Addy. I appreciate it.
It's your podcast too, man, of course.
I know, but it's just like, I don't want to become like, I don't want to tell people what to do. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying that for me, like, I was so despondent. I was like, oh, for Christ's sake. And doing, especially my other show, The Stitch Up, and this show too, like, we are really positive and we love all this stuff, but it's so hard to penetrate the negativity. That's what people, if it bleeds, it leads. That's what people want to hear about. Dwayne Johnson's movie's not doing too well. Well, fuck that guy. Like, it's such, schadenfreude. I can't get behind it. And I was like, well, why do I even do these things? Why do I do this show? And I do them because they're fun, and that's what I get out of it. And if one person listens and decides, hey, you know what, he's right, I'm going to go and see Babylon, Damien Chazelle, you owe me a fucking check. But regardless of all that, do you want to do what are we watching?
Let's do what are we watching.
Okay, what are we
watching?
The timing gets better every time. I think we're really good. Well, as I said, I've been watching Ted Lasso, but I'll talk about that in a second. What have you been watching? Well,
let's start off with something that we both watched at the same time, on the same day, but unknowingly. We watched a small Christmas movie called Violent Night with David Harbour.
It's good. It's good fun.
It is so fun. I can't. It's just so fun. It is dumb fucking fun, and that's all you need.
Yeah. Yep. That's a perfect way to describe it. It doesn't ask much of you. It's everything you expect it to be. John Leguizamo's in it. Can't win. I can't lose, rather. You cannot lose with that film. Like, hang on, I just need to move my cabling. Sorry, this happens every fucking time. It's like a goddamn Medusa in here of all the goddamn cables. Okay, sorry if that made noises, everybody. Okay, Violent Night.
Yeah, it's that kind of movie. If you sit down and you think about it a lot, it's gonna ruin the fun. So don't do that. Just watch it.
Yeah. Just get in, and it was, it's not going to be a Hollywood. It's not going to be a Christmas classic, but it's certainly David Harbour. I mean, like, that's all you need. David Harbour and John Leguizamo. They're the business,
Absolutely. This is the night where Christmas dies or some shit.
There was a joke in the trailer for the fucking thing that they didn't use in the film, which was like, he said, it's time for some season's beatings, and I was pissed myself, but it's not actually in the movie. It was just in the trailer. Which apparently, we're going to talk about that in Nerd News. You can get sued for that now.
Yeah.
Fucking extremely American. But we'll get to that business. Anything else you've been watching?
I watched Avatar 2.
Yeah? And can you tell me what it's like and not tell me how much fucking money it made? Of course it made $1 billion, everybody. What did you think was going to happen? Why is everybody so surprised?
I'm like 85% sure that I was the one that got it to $1 billion worldwide.
Yeah, of course. Did 2 visits. That makes it up.
Yeah, because
Did you see it in the 3D with the high frame rate?
I did not. I'm planning on it, but I did not. I just wanted to watch it in 2D just to see how it feels. And like the first time, I didn't feel it. I literally hated a lot of things in that film. The first time around.
You're racist against blue people.
I am not. I'm the fuck, man.
He's not. He loves them.
Yeah.
Too much of anything. There's
Yeah.
a whole bunch of X-Men that are blue as well. We'll get to that.
Hey, it's right here, man.
Yeah, mutant and proud. But Addy's wearing a T-shirt with little, like, headshots of all the characters from the X-Men cartoon series, which we'll talk about in part 3 of this series. And it says mutant and proud, and it's the best T-shirt that anyone's ever worn ever.
Yeah.
Legit.
Well, no, your Deadpool one is fucking amazing.
My Deadpool taco hoodie is pretty awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, it's an experience. It's a film made for people that didn't fall in love with the first one, but kind of want to watch this one. And the one thing is that you do have to sit through the first one to understand what the fuck's going on in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And the story is insanely childish. It is very childish.
Well, so was the first one. It's just, like that kind of American frontier kind of stuff.
And the more I think about the first one, the more I kind of don't want to talk about it, because there's a lot of white savior shit in that I just...
It's loud. In a like with a 2022 lens of just thinking how far we've come in the last 15 years in terms of inclusion and not doing that. Another great white savior is kind of not what you want. And I rewatched it recently for the We Hate Movies podcast. Did an episode, so I like to watch the movie before I listen to the episode. And I haven't seen it since it was at the cinema all those years ago. And yeah, it was the first thing that popped out. Was like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
These people look after themselves, probably. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, the sex stuff with the dragons is a bit odd. Like, oh yeah, you're mine now. Like, fucking hell, all right.
They call it bonding in air quotes, but if you really think about it, when they do bond with their birds, it's kind of rape.
Sorry to use the R word, everyone, but it's a bit fucking bloody odd and weird, I must say. And also, there's a lot of really big... I don't know where Disney Plus is doing this. This is me doing a sexy voice. But Disney Plus it's on Disney Plus, so fuck it. Yeah, hi, this is Disney Plus. I love huge blue feet. Ah. Now, everyone out there, don't isolate that clip, please. And use it around the internet.
It's not anyone out there, it's just me. I'm going to do that.
I'm going to get cancelled. Yeah, that's true, yeah. So there is a lot of issues going on there, but, did you have a good time with it? Do you think the story works? That's what I really want to know. It could be as beautiful, like the high frame rate and the 3D you can all keep. Like, I'm sure it's a technical wonder, and it's come so much further in terms of its the CG, like the cinematic techniques around that. And I know that it's going to be greater than a lot of the other stuff we've seen lately. Beautiful. That's wonderful. I'm so happy that we've come to a place where we can do that. That's not what I'm interested in. Like, is the story... That's why I don't go and see it, because I'm not interested in the story. I didn't like the first one. I didn't not like it. It just didn't engage me. I like the environmental message behind it all. That's great. And probably this one too. But that story in particular doesn't really interest me, however good it looks. Did you enjoy the story?
Not really. The story, it's kind of weird because it's not the same problem I have with the first one. I kind of ignore all the mediocre writing with the characters, because the culture and the themes in that first one are just so loud that you can see them without the dialogue.
Yep.
And it's amazing that film exists, and the message that the film is sending is amazing. This one has that a lot, but this one also introduces characters that we haven't seen before. And the mutants.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Um,
Did they not use that word at some point?
they did not.
No, maybe I'm thinking of the first one. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, but yeah, the story is not that great. The themes are more powerful than the first one, I would say. Like, the themes really got me the second time around. Like, I have a tendency, if I like something, I will choose to ignore the flaws in it because I just like it so much. And I'm not ignoring any flaws in this one because the villain sucks. It's all the writing with the human characters is atrocious. But
I'm just nodding. Yep.
but the themes and just showing how these characters are gonna go on from now, it's amazing.
Yep.
Shit.
What's it? Turn that shit off. We're in the middle of something.
Yeah.
This is work.
But yeah, I would say if you don't want to watch it and you're not sure if you're gonna like it, watch it without all the IMAX and 4D shit. Watch it just in a standard Atmos theater or whatever, 2D.
Yep.
And if you like it,
frames per second.
yeah, and then if you like it, then go on to IMAX, man. Enjoy it as much as you want to.
Or do it the way that some of my pals have done it in New York and go to the 4DX, but have a joint beforehand, have a bit of a vape pen before. I'm not advocating marijuana use in Australia or Thailand for that matter, but in America it's legal in a lot of places, and apparently that's the way to do it. But yeah, okay, well, you know, like, go and check it out. Make up your own mind, folks. Don't listen to us. Addy, he thinks it's good looking, but not so great story. I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to comment.
The only thing I would say though is that we had Avatar 1 with okay, not that great of a story, but okay characters and a good story. This one has an okay story, but kind of great characters. So we have a balance of both now. So I'm excited to see what James Cameron does with the third one, knowing that he's already shot the third one.
The third one's end of next year, and then the third one's end of next year. 2026 is the fourth one, and the fifth one is 2028. And then he has plans for 6 and 7, but he'll be in his 80s at that point, so he's going to pass it on to someone else, I think. Yeah. You know, and there's no denying his technical prowess. I think he has a problem with his scripts. They're very formulaic. Not that I could write a script. Well, maybe I could. I don't know. He's a very proficient producer of everything and of all aspects, but I just think especially the first one, it is so, like, the dialogue is so ripped from every other movie you've ever heard. There's nothing really new about the way that his people speak to each other or the way that the flow of the story goes. It's very formula, and that's fine. That's fine, Jim. You seem to be doing okay. I'm not going to diss you, buddy. Jim, like he's my friend.
Maybe
anything else you were watching? Yeah.
Another film that both of us watched was Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery, and I only watched it because I'm a Beatles fan and I wanted to hear that song.
Is the Glass Onion?
Yeah.
Is there a Glass Onion? Is that the name of a Beatles song? Is it?
Yeah, it plays at the end of the credits.
Is that what that is? Okay, I don't know. I'm not a Beatles person. But I like the Beatles, but just, you know, I don't follow their whole catalogue. Yeah, I dug it. I thought it was long in parts. And you know what really got me though was just the way that Ryan Johnson, is it Johnson?
Yep.
Director. The way that Ryan Johnson and his cinematographer, who he has used since his debut film Brick, which is amazing, by the way. It's a film noir set in a high school about a girl who goes missing and her ex-boyfriend who tries to hunt her down. Incredible film, Brick. Just stop listening to this right now, press pause, and come back after you've watched Brick and appreciate that. Wonderful film. He's used the same DP the whole time. It is one of the most beautifully shot pictures of the year. Like it's not that Academy Awards again mean anything, but it should get a nod for cinematography. There was a shot in particular where they're in the last sort of what is known as the parlor scene, where all the information comes out, and Daniel Craig's wonderful Benoit character is sort of going through the mystery and breaking it all down, and the camera is dollying past those glass statuettes, and it's warping the frame as he walks past. And I literally said out loud to my fiance, I was like, "That's fucking amazing!" Like, it was just, yeah, I dug it a lot. It was pretty cool. It's probably about 20 minutes too long.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
Yeah, there was just, but what I really liked about it is how it is. And again, Emily said this, my fiance, it wasn't something I sort of took on straight away, but she's like, this is a dig at every person who was a shit heap during lockdown. Influencers, YouTube celebrities, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these people. There's not. There's, I'm sure they're doing great work in places, but there is certainly a toxic area of all of this stuff. Dave Bautista's character is a symbol of that kind of. I call it anti-woke, like it's people who are intentionally being not woke to sort of counteract how much that happens. And the young girl he's going to have me on his Twitch stream, that kind of thing, and the billionaire who has all the money in the world and no sense, like and could have, they get on the button, they get sprayed in the mouth. Ethan Hawke sprays in the mouth, and he's like, "You're good." That's a cure for COVID they've just been given, and that's if all of the billionaires had fucking pulled their money at the beginning of this shit, it would have happened all a bit quicker. So I like that it was taking a dig at a bunch of different cultures of society, different groups of society who were in a time when everyone was struggling, doing all the wrong things, and not helping anybody out. It was very, very cool. A very cool film.
A friend of mine pointed out that if you see the poster for Knives Out and Glass Onion, Chris Evans' name and Edward Norton's name, spoilers by the way, is second. And when they announced the poster, he had a theory that Edward Norton's going to be the killer, and he wanted it to be so wrong.
I kind of picked that as well. Like, but I picked Chris Evans in the first one. I'm not saying I'm a fantastic detective or anything, but it was, it just kind of feels that way that it's going. I didn't realize Batista was going to, there's spoilers for all this stuff, by the way. Didn't realize Batista was going to have what happened to him. He grows a third head, everyone. He had two. One of them, his head, and then the forehead that he has. Have you seen this dude? My God, he's a monster. It's fantastic. God, it looks like Frankenstein. So I reckon check it out. Yeah, check out Glass Onion. It's a good time. Yeah,
it's a good time. And Daniel Craig has a lot of fun in this one, I think, more than he had the first one.
I don't know how he's able to form words with all the fucking scenery he's got in his mouth. Like, it's amazing. But he's having a really good time. Actually, I read a review on Letterboxd of it. I can't remember who it was, sorry. Said this should be his legacy. Like, he should do like 2 or 3 more of these films, and people should be like, when you hear Daniel Craig, you think Benoit Blanc in the same sentence, not Bond, because a lot of people have been Bond. But anyway, moving forward, as I said, the thing that I've watched the most was Christmas stuff, and went to the cinema a couple of times and saw some stuff at the Astor, my annual seeing of Batman Returns, which is still the best superhero movie of all time and the best Batman movie of all time, in my opinion. Go and check out the Stitch Up episode of Batman Returns, which came out last year, if you need my essay on why that's the case. But also, Ted Lasso. My friend Tyler, what's up, buddy? Got me onto it. We were just at the gym, and he said you should check it out. I'm like, I've just avoided it because I don't like soccer. Well, I don't not like soccer. I just have no relationship with soccer. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's totally fine. And I watched it, and I laughed and I cried and I felt warm inside, and I wanted to be a better person. Like, it's such a beautiful show, and it's so well constructed. All the characters are so well drawn, and have so much agency. It's a beautiful piece of television. I highly recommend Ted Lasso. Even just get an Apple trial for a fucking couple of weeks and just check it out. Or ask Will Smith to do it, because apparently he's giving them away like fucking hotcakes or whatever the hell's going on.
What?
I don't know, something about Will Smith giving away Apple subscriptions because he wants people to watch Emancipation, which is his new film. If you want people to watch your movies, don't physically assault other people at the Oscars, dude. It's really, really simple. Cool. All right. Well, shall we? Do you want to? I mean, the other thing I've been watching, in air quotes, is 4 kittens. Me and my fiance fostered 4 kittens yesterday from a animal shelter here in Melbourne. And so, yeah, we have 4 little boys, 4 little kitten buddies. There's Paul, but spelt Pawl, Jack, and Perry with an I, and Clark is he's amazing. And I called him Clark because he's really shy and really, really meek, but very sweet. So he reminded me of Clark Kent. I thought you'd appreciate that one, Eddie. He's going to cry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been watching kittens just... Yeah, I thought so, yeah. I've been watching kittens tumble over each other all morning and then all fall asleep in a heap. It's been wonderful. It's almost as wholesome as Ted Lasso. All right, so, but instead of all kitten stuff, we'll get back to that. We're going to do some nerd news. All right, Film Addicts Podcast, nerd news, all positive nerd news, folks. It's going to be a good time. First is we're talking about the Glass Onions, a Knives Out mystery, which apparently Ryan Johnson isn't a fan of having to have that subtitle, but I assume Netflix made him do it. But that's not the story. The story is he says Dave Bautista is the greatest wrestler turned actor ever. What do you reckon?
I reckon he's right.
He said someone like Paul Thomas Anderson is going to give him a real part, and he's going to look like and it's going to look like genius. I mean, already happened. Denis Villeneuve gave him a role in at the beginning of Blade Runner 2049, and he's fantastic in that. He's really great. He's great as Drax, even though it's not, a super dramatic role. There's dramatic points to it. Yeah, I think he's really talented as well. And has more range than a lot of the other ones anyway. What are you laughing at?
I'm sorry. I got flashbacks to when we did the Dune episode and he did the same thing with his name.
Niv. Yep. We have a good catalogue of nonsense is basically over 2,000 minutes of nonsense for your ass if you enjoy it. So yeah, I'm kind of on board with him. I guess the future is pretty bright for good old Mr. Bautista. And speaking glowingly about actors, Christopher Nolan came out recently to speak about the star of his new film Oppenheimer, Robert Downey Jr. And he said, "We all know that Robert Downey Jr. is one of the great movie stars. It's also easy to forget that he's also one of the greatest actors of all time." And that's such a beautiful sentiment because Robert Downey Jr. has been sidelined from taking great roles by being Tony Stark for a long time. He tried to do a couple of things in between there, Doolittle, Judge, and they didn't really work for him. This is kind of going to be his, I think, coming back to everyone going, oh yeah, he's fucking amazing. And I know that because I watched Kiss Kiss Bang Bang on Christmas night. Hysterical. And the scene where he kills the guy and he's on the phone to Perry and he's like, "Perry, I just killed a guy. I've never had to do that before." Like he really is one of the finest actors of his generation.
What is there to say?
Yeah, that's very true. If Christopher Nolan says it, I just shut up and go, "Yep, you're right, Chris." Yeah. So I can't wait to see that movie and see his performance in it. Yeah,
the fucking cast is stacked, man.
It is full on like Donkey Kong. I'm gonna tell you that much.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great. This is an interesting one. Sony reportedly wanted to give Zendaya's MJ powers in the MCU because she has them. And he just rubbed his forehead like I just told him that I'd done a fart. Yeah, they were trying for a while to give Zendaya's character powers, but they didn't do it in the end. And they were, she was happy to just be MJ. In the comics, Mary Jane has powers at the moment for whatever reason. So I'm kind of glad they didn't do that either.
Right. Too. Also, we had a leaked shit about James Cameron's Spider-Man. I'm so glad it didn't get made.
Yeah, I've read the treatment that he put up, and it's bloody odd and weird. Like it's violent. There's lots of swearing, and him and MJ, or maybe him and MJ, or him and Gwen Stacy perhaps, fuck on
the Brooklyn Bridge.
The Brooklyn Bridge. I nearly said the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I'm like, what the fuck?
Hey,
yeah, on the
if
Brooklyn
they want to,
Bridge. It's like, fill your boots. It's a good place to do it. It's all sideways. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that would have worked. And Leo he's too good looking. You know, for he's too much of a movie star in my head. But it would be interesting to see maybe the alternate reality of where that film came out and what it is. His drawings and stuff for it were pretty cool. He tried for a long time. Tried for a really long time.
I don't know if we have this in the Nerd News, but because we're talking about Spider-Man, there was a trailer for Across the Spider-Verse that dropped.
I didn't see it.
Oh my god, dude, see it! I want your live reaction.
All right, well, no, I'm not going to watch it while people... We've done this before. I'm not going to listen to something while people are listening to us. That's ridiculous. We'll do it and then we'll talk about it next episode. Yeah, well, if you enjoyed that, let us know how you felt about the new Cross the Spider-Verse trailer, and we'll talk about it next week. Sorry, where are we? I've lost my way. Here we go. Black Panther 2's original story with Chadwick Boseman was officially released, and Ryan Coogler said that it was going to be like a father and son story, which is pretty interesting. It was going to be dealing with the blip and how T'Challa was gone, along with the billions of other people, and brought back 5 years later to this son that he didn't know he had. And it was going to be like a story of them kind of learning from each other and bonding and becoming father and son. But then Black Panther would go and have to, go on some sort of adventure, and he would take the kid with him. I don't know what that is, because you can't speculate because Chadwick's no longer with us. So I'm sure it would have been interesting, if nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say anyone listening, just stay away from that. Just try and stay away from just imagining and speculating what that would be like. Yeah. Just stick with what we have and make a judgment based on that, because otherwise we could be... I mean, I'm sure there's people out there writing fan scripts as we speak. It would be interesting if Ryan Coogler released that script, though, on Script Lab or something like that. That'd be pretty cool. This one I thought was interesting. New details on Marvel's Thunderbolts has been revealed that Sentry, with an S, will reportedly first appear as a member of the Thunderbolts team, and then throughout the film will start to hear voices and lose his mind, leading him to be the villain of the piece. Now, Sentry was a Superman-level powered creation in the early 90s, I think it was, or mid-90s. And it was supposedly, it was marketed as a Stan Lee creation from years and years ago that never took off. That was just buried in the annals of Marvel comic book history. And Brian Michael Bendis, the wunderkind at the time in the 90s, resurrected this character and gave him his own series, and it was like, this is his return. And they had old fake art done, from the when Stan supposedly first created it, but it was all a ruse. It was just a new character that they were sort of giving this kind of fake origin to, and he's been in and out of the comics for years. He was in the Avengers for a while. So I'm pretty keen on that. I think that's a really cool thing to do, having a this team member kind of with Superman level powers lose their shit. It's almost the Suicide Squad movie. I mean, we said it when we did the Comic-Con episode.
Yep. Yeah. So good luck with that one. I don't know. Yelena's in it, so I'm going. I'm going to get Florence. You put Florence Pugh in something, I'll line up. Don't worry. And finally, in the nerd news, this is a little Schadenfreude. Oh no, I suppose it's not really. It speaks to the stupidity of people, and I have an example of it as well. Excuse me. A federal judge has ruled that movie studios can be sued for advertising deceptive trailers. So, for instance, the one that they speak to is the Avengers Infinity War, where you had the shot of them all running at the camera, which was shot purely for the trailer because the Hulk's not in that picture. you can now be sued for it. And it comes after 2 Ana de Armas fans filed a lawsuit when they rented the film yesterday after seeing her in the trailer and she wasn't in it. Okay. Let's just be... Addy's pissing himself. Let's just say this straight up. First thing, grow the fuck up. Like, that is so childish. And I have an example of it too. I used to work in a video store. We have like a chain of video stores here. We don't anymore, but they've closed down, called Video Easy. And I worked at one of those, and fuck me, a woman called up one day, and it was her and her friend, like on the phone as well, but like behind her, like, yeah, you fucked up, complaining that they'd hired The Butterfly Effect with Aston Kutcher, and the ending was different than the one that they saw that was at the cinema. And I was trying to explain to them that it's because it's the director's cut. It's a different picture. And they were like, oh no, it's, it's something about him being a baby or whatever. It's ridiculous. And she was literally shouting at me over the phone with her friend in the background, telling me, who was 2 years into film school at the time, they don't change the ending of movies in the director's cut, you fucking idiot, and all this stuff. And I was just like, actually, they do. They do it all the time. Blade Runner. They've got the little extended versions of the Lord of the Rings. You've got the fucking Apocalypse Now. Like, I was trying to get them to do it, and they just were losing their mind, saying that, this isn't how they were expecting it to end, and they want their money back. And the manager gave them their money back. She was like, come in, we'll give you a free rental. I'm like, you can't placate to these people. That's ridiculous. Like, these 2 people who are suing the Ana de Armas fans, who, like, no problem being an Ana de Armas fan. I am as well. But come on. I mean, would you just? Fuck me, Addy. I don't know. Like, the IQ level is plummeting. It's ridiculous. Did you know, when you go to the like a hotel or whatever, and they've got the hairdryer, and there's a little tag on it that says, do not use in the shower. Like, do we have to slow down for these people? What the fuck, man? Anyway.
You know what's worse?
What's that?
Yesterday is a Beatles biopic where the Beatles stop existing, and this is the only person who remembers the Beatles. And
yeah, I know what the story is, right? Yeah.
And the scene that they're talking about, I've seen that scene. It's on YouTube. And it's so...
Well, there you fucking go!
And it's bad, man. Like, it's not worth fucking suing for.
Maybe go on YouTube, watch it, or rip it from YouTube and insert it into your Blu-ray copy of yesterday or whatever, anything, you fucking lunatics. And with that, we end the nerd news. Holy shit. Bit of a gag. But now we get to do what Addy lovingly refers to in the episode roundup that he sends me as the meat and potatoes of the show. And we get to talk about the X-Men. And we've been wanting to do it since day one. The X-Men mean an awful lot to both of us. They're a wonderful, fervent metaphor for, change and for the LGBTQ plus community. For anybody who's ever felt different or not outclassed, Emily said then, and as an outsider, even just a teenager, just a person trying to figure it all out. They really are wonderful. And we're going to talk about, in this episode, the first 3 movies. So the original trilogy, X-Men, X2, X-United, and X-Men The Last Stand. We're not going to talk too much about the directors of these pictures because they're both fucking monsters. And we're gonna just ignore that part of it and talk about these movies and what they meant to us. So, Addy, let's start with you, my friend. Now, we've talked about this. Do you more... do you have a stronger bond with the cartoon?
Kind of. I've forgotten most of it because I was really, really small when I watched it. Yeah. So I've gone back and watched like a couple of episodes when Multiverse of Madness was coming out. And I had no idea they were going to play that theme in the film. And when they did, I think I said in the podcast when we recorded that I fucking screamed. Because that was the biggest surprise for me. Like, don't fuck him, man.
No, don't fuck anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck some people if you want to, but, as long as it's consensual.
Yeah. That got me more than Fantastic, the Mr. Fantastic coming on.
Yeah, me too. And I knew what the X-Men was from comics because I grew up when X-Men exploded in the 90s when Jim Lee and Chris Claremont were doing their run on I think it was Chris Claremont, but Jim Lee, like superstar artist on X-Men. It was the highest selling comic of all time, and it just, blew everybody's head. And, the X-Men itself was outselling everything in the 80s. The Uncanny X-Men was outselling even Batman. And, it does, because it does have an audience that is... I mean, Batman's a very particular person. He's a fucking white billionaire whose parents were killed and he become a bat. That's fine. Superman come from another planet. He's an alien person who saved the day. The X-Men are all these different people, all with their individual powers, which are in themselves metaphors for things that we go through. What can be more powerful than, a metaphor about someone who can't turn off the voices in their head? When you're a teenager, that's all it is. Who am I? Why am I here? Why don't I fit in? Why do I fit in? Just those kind of things. Or the way your body changes, that strange kind of like body horror stuff when you're a teenager. Like all of a sudden your voice drops if you're a man. If you're a girl, you start becoming a woman, and then you become a woman, and it's all these different things. And if you're a man, sometimes you might discover an alternate sexuality as well, which is a whole nother thing. And the X-Men were a school as well. They were all teenagers when they first started. And I think that one of the best things I ever heard was, about Wolverine, was what happens when you realize you're not aging. Like, think of that moment where all of a sudden you realize you've been on the planet for 50 years and you still look 25. What does this mean? What does this do to you? And the comics were really, really heavy with that kind of metaphor, and that's the way Stan wanted it when he created it with Jack Kirby. And then the cartoon I knew a lot because it was always on in the afternoon and in the morning when I was leaving for school and coming home from school. That theme song, fucking is outstanding. It was my ringtone for years. But in the year 2000. Was it 99 or 2000? It was the year 2000. So it was 2 years after Blade, which was the film that Marvel, really hit stride with them. Like, oh shit, this is an interesting place to make some money. And then you had a flurry of stuff. Wesley Snipes. And then X-Men comes out, and no one was ready for it. It has a troublesome third act because it all kind of... all the preamble, the lead up to it is really great. And then you've got this kind of clunky third act, but that happens in a lot of movies.
Well, it's also an amazing film that's under 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's like, which is fucking unheard of now. Like, to have a movie under 90 minutes, people are like, no, I'm not going to watch it then. So... And it sets everybody up, the fan casting of Patrick Stewart. Like in Wizard magazine, the old school Wizard magazine, they would have fan casting of a movie, and he was always number one for who should be Professor Xavier. And it spoke to everything that needed to be the X-Men, but also spoke to what it needed to be for a new millennium. There's that silly line in the film where he says, how do you get around in these things when Wolverine's in the costume? And he's like, what would you rather be in, yellow spandex?
Fuck yeah, man.
Cyclops. Yeah. Fuck you, Cyclops, you sassy bitch. And the other interesting thing about it is, who doesn't know the name Hugh Jackman anymore? This dude was performing in Oklahoma on stage at the time. He's a song and dance man. He's also 6'2", 6'4", or something. Like Wolverine wasn't that. The guy who was cast was an Irish actor named Doug Ray Scott, and he was in the second Mission Impossible movie. And if I'm not mistaken, he injured his shoulder and couldn't get make the start date. So they got Hugh in, and now we'll get to Logan in the third episode, but from year 2000 to Logan, what an incredible run. And now coming back for Deadpool as well. It gave us the Wolverine we all know. When did you first see the first picture, the first film, and how did you feel about it?
So, here's the thing. I didn't watch the first one. And there's something that I did a lot, and I've started realizing it now that I did a lot of just picking up shit and watching it. Because I watched like the fifth Harry Potter film before I watched the first one.
That's a weird order, but sure.
So I watched
For X-Men, it kind of works, but for those films, it does not. They have a real continuity, whereas the X films, you know, these original three, you can watch one or the other, and you're still going to get it.
Yeah, I watched X2, then I watched X3, and then I watched X-Men.
Okay, that's an interesting. Well, X2 is, you know, we'll get to that in a second, but that is the standout of the trilogy. It is such a well put together picture. It has the best sequences. It's the most well written. Like, I like David Hayter, or Hayter, Hayter. You figure out how to say it. He was the writer on that project, and he's great and everything. But the two young guys who would then go with the director to make Superman Returns, they wrote the shit out of that script. It was really great.
Yeah. Who, like, I want to ask, like, who was your favorite, like, your favorite standout of just the first one? Like, someone you didn't expect who nailed the character?
I mean, he's not really given a whole lot to do, but I think fucking James Marsden's great. I think he's just the right amount of sort of prissy teacher's pet kind of dude with like this real green jealousy streak running through him of this alpha male who turns up and he's all beard and claws and he's trying to boff his woman. Like, he's great. The problem with the Cyclops in all of those movies, I mean, the first one he gets a little bit more play, but the second and the third one, they have no idea what to do with him. He's like Hawkeye. They're like, hey, there he is. But I think he was great. Like, he was surprisingly good because in the cartoon, he's such a Boy Scout. But in the comics, you know, at some point, after House of M, Cyclops turns and he starts to believe what Magneto believed and was like, we need to find all the mutants that are left and the new ones who are coming out and we need to join together. We need to fucking, you know, take this shit over. So much so that he gets taken over by the Phoenix power and you know, kills a bunch of people. Like, he's one bad day, and you get that in the third picture, except it doesn't come to fruition. But yeah, I think that's the case. Why? Who stuck out for you?
Oh, a Rogue. I did not expect to like Rogue as much as I did. And because of the first X-Men movie, she's my favorite X-Men. I never had an answer.
Really?
I never ever had an answer for that question. Who's your favorite X-Men? And I do. It's Rogue, and I love her.
I think we could have used the Southern Belle accent on Anna Paquin, but that's just me. You know how in the cartoon she's talking like this, and oh, I'm just a Southern Belle. I'm gonna have intercourse with that Cajun dude, and he's like, "Olay." That's not Cajun. What am I saying? Olay. Hang on. What does he say? Okay. Calls her Cher all the time. You know. Yeah. She's like, Anna Paquin's a great actress, so she's always going to excel in whatever you give her. And that power as well, and when she discovers that power, I think that's a lot about, you know, discovering your sexuality as a young person, or discovering your sexual identity, you know, and how you want to be, whether you're straight or not. But also the dangers therein. It's drilled into your head, you know, sex is bad. Sex is, you know, you can get pregnant, you can get venereal disease, you can get hurt. Someone can take it from you. Like, there's this danger around it when you're a young person. And also it's, you know, about religiosity as well, about religions that preach abstinence until marriage, and how that's the thing to do. So she is probably, along with Jean and Xavier, you know, being telepaths, the people who kind of feel or fill that metaphor out for the entirety of the X-Men more than anyone else.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of like fan art shit with Rogue and Logan, and I know that like there was a point where Logan and Rogue were supposed to hook up. I don't see that relationship as anything else than a very, very platonic friendship. And it works, and I don't know, it might just be me because I love platonic relationships more than romantic ones, but it works so well for me. Like, it was something that I needed, and it gave it all. And loved it. I loved it so much. And it's not something that dies down in the first one. Like, it's carried on to the third one.
Yeah, very much when she's trying to decide whether or not she wants to get the cure, which is the interesting part of that movie is offering the cure, and he says, I'm not your father, I'm your friend. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to support you or tell you what I think you should do, but you don't have to listen to me. They played it really well, and if they had made that a love story, like, get fucked. I'm sorry, Anna Paquin's like my age, and Hugh Jackman's like 50 something. Like that would have been weird at that particular time. Maybe not so more anymore. I don't know.
I think it would have been more weird now.
Yeah, probably. But I think Rogue was given more agency in X2 in the sequel because she was with Bobby, she was with Iceman, and trying to navigate what that is, and even having some intimate moments. And then they went too far the next one. They were like, well, she's just being cruel to him about it. Like, he knows the rules and she knows the rules. Why is she's like, oh, you're only thinking of one thing. He's like, hang on a fucking second. Like, I've stood beside you through these issues. I don't care if you get the cure or not. I'm going to love you either way. I will say, the first one's well executed. There's a really great, I mean, you've got to contend with the fact that there's a certain person on camera who is we're talking about the director of this film, who has some allegations have been made, and we're not going to talk about it. But if you can get over the fact that person will be in some behind the scenes footage, a DVD was released, and you can probably find it on YouTube or something, called X-Men 1.5 or something. It was released to coincide with the DVD release of X2. And there is nearly a 3-hour long documentary of the making of the first one, and it's one of the best, like, behind the scenes. It's so raw, and so so much so that you see the special effects coordinator falling asleep at one of the meetings. Like, it is step by step how they made that movie, and it's really. Yeah, it's worth a look just to an insight into how they used to do these things, because this was when they weren't given a lot of budget, they weren't given a lot of time, they weren't, superhero stuff wasn't a sure thing yet. This was second out of the gate, so I think even Spider-Man hadn't come out yet. I think it's an interesting look back at the way these films were produced. In also in the way that the X-Men movie now is, Ryan Reynolds has said it. Fox calls it, or they did when Fox had it, but Fox used to call the X-Men movies cha-ching, because that's what it did for him. It made him big bucks. But it wasn't until after the first one that happened. X2 is a much better executed film. Its set pieces are some of the best action set pieces you'll ever see. The opening attack on the White House of Nightcrawler is absolutely
amazing.
How good is it, man? Like, it still holds up so well, and the effect of him bamfing as well, and just the way that sequence is shot, and to have it be, these brainwashed mutants, these slaves who are being used by slaves is a term they use as well. It's not me using the term slaves. Being used by Stryker. Fantastically played by Brian Cox. Just so great. There's nothing that way for you, Wolverine. Like, just, he's so intense. It's so great to start this underground war. This, like, do we really want to turn this, when the senator who's actually Mystique in disguise, do we really want to turn this into a war? And he's like, don't talk to me about war. I was in, the jungles of Vietnam while you were sucking on your mama's tit at Woodstock. Don't talk to me about war. This already is a war. Like, he's so hateful. He's such a racist, and to use the race that he's fighting against, to use them against their own people is what a powerful villain.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how much I liked X2, but yeah, that part and that whole character of Stryker, I love to hate him, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. He's also he's a villain who isn't a physical threat to anybody. In the first one, you get that great scene in the first film where Magneto makes all the cops' guns turn on him.
Ooh.
Like he is, yeah, it's powerful. And then you see just the bullet like going sort of halfway in until, Charles stops. And, their relationship in particular is great throughout these pictures. Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart.
They're amazing.
Can't do better,
as less are there in those three films, they're amazing every scene they're in together.
Yeah. They make it so much more than it could have been. They give real gravitas. But, like I said, in the second one, there's no real physical threat there. It's all circumstance. And then each other, fighting Lady Deathstroke, fighting Cyclops at the end after he's been brainwashed and, sidelined a bit. The glass prison kind of, you should have killed me when you had the chance. Like, it's such a fucking great film. Outside of it being, based on a comic book.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that I took away the most out of these three. Because I don't hate the third one. I just like Dark Phoenix more than this one. And I know a lot of people are going to hate that.
I'm with you as well. I think the third is it suffers what a lot of genre picture sequels suffer from. It's just too much. They just tried to put too much in too soon. And that makes sense because the guy who directed it is all about excess. Look at the size of the fucker. Sorry, I mean, I don't mean like his actual size. I mean the weight that he holds or the weight that he held in Hollywood at the time. Sorry if I wasn't body shaming him. It's a bit misunderstanding there. But yeah, if you look at that director, he, he's all about excess. He directed the Rush Hour pictures. And, even his Red Dragon was so much bigger than Silence of the Lambs had been. But I think what X2 has is real through line. There's a tidiness to it. Jean starts to develop these powers or has developed these powers and they're starting to get out of control. And then by the end of it, you kind of see where it's going. Like the fight at Alkali Lake is incredible where, they've got their own Cerebro made. And then Magneto warps it so it becomes Dark Cerebro and then starts to kill all the people and all that stuff. And then Logan, who is on a constant search for self, for who he is, deciding to stay with the children, like deciding to stay with the X-Men. Is it that thing in your arms? And he picks him up and he's like, yeah, that's right, I'm one of these guys. The character through lines are so clear. And Nightcrawler is interesting too because he is originally a threat, and then when he's by the time you get to the end of it, he is sage to them. He is the Nightcrawler that he should be. It's after Jean has passed away and he's doing the prayer, which is fine. It's all good. He is that. Historically that's what he is. But it's just got. It executes everything so well from start to finish, and it has great structure. And I think X2 is one of the best superhero movies ever made. And
I agree. I don't like it as much as the first one, but I do agree that it's one of the best superhero movies ever made because it puts you in the shoes of the X-Men. It puts you in the shoes of when I'll never get over how like all this shit is happening, right? And they're trying to disconnect Charles from literally every single person in the world, and you cut to Rogue trying to fly the Blackbird, and the X-Men theme plays. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's an interesting turn for her trying to my powers don't really work in this scenario, so I'm just going to try and fly this plane. I think that's kind of her cross to bear. I think the thing that X2 for me has over the first one is that they knew what they were doing. Like there's no origin films are hard to set everybody up, particularly when it's a team and you have to have people understand what a mutant is for starters, which isn't an easy conversation.
Yeah.
Just go, oh, by the way, this is what a mutant is. It needs to be like, why do they all have different powers? Why don't they all have the same power? Why are so many of them blue? This is weird. It's true. There's a lot of them blue. I think without that sort of weight of story development and being able to just like, boom, get in, this is the next adventure. And by the way, the villain is a human and we are all getting together. Like there's that great scene on the plane where, fucking sassy ass Magneto is talking to Mystique and they're like, Rogue's like, what? And he goes, love what you've done with your hair. And she's like, I'm gonna fucking come over there and take all the old off you, you prick. Like, it's just, and the sort of discourse between Pyro and Bobby kind of building there, and then him realizing at the end of it that, you know, they fly off and he's on the ground and he's like, no, I'm one of these guys. I think where, you know, you have that scene at Bobby's house after his horrible parents are like,
yeah,
say to him, have you tried not being a mutant? Like, you know, I've never had to come out to my parents, but I can't imagine that you know, that kind of conversation hasn't happened around, you know, being gay or being trans or being, you know, any sort of sexual minority that isn't like that conversation. And when the police turn up and you know, they shoot Logan in the head and everyone's like, oh Christ, and Pyro's like, you know, all those dangerous mutants you've heard about, I'm the worst one. And he just starts taking these guys out and blowing up cars. Like, that's a really great, because not everyone can be a good guy. Not everyone is going to be that person, and you never know until you're tested. And the kid got tested. And
I'm sorry, it's a very serious conversation. Like, it's the one thing I really love about that scene is like Bobby's parents ask Logan what does he teach, and he says art, like in the most fucking badass way.
Professor of what? And the little cat who licks his thing. Imagine going to a kid's house and like, oh, that's actually one of my favorite parts, when he walks into the kitchen and Bobby's in there eating ice cream, and he's like, you know, couldn't sleep. He's like, nah, and he goes, you got any beer? And he's like, this is a school. That scene as well, where Stryker's dudes attack.
Oh,
you know,
that's the one that gave me chills. Like, the first time. Oh god.
Where like Wolverine goes full, like where he slams that guy against the fridge and puts both of his blades through the guy's, you know, chest. He's like, like, you're like, oh, this is what it is. And also, you know, Hugh was cast late. Like, the shirtless scenes that he did in the Fight Club in the first film were shot last. Yeah, because he wasn't in that physical condition. In the second one, he's getting towards that insane shit that he got. Like, it's a little bit more human than he ends up in like Days of Future Past, but that's when he looks like, okay, this guy is formidable. He said he wanted to look like Robert De Niro in Cape Fear. Like, he just wanted to look like just a monster. And yeah, that sequence, and then where he sees Stryker and then the wall of ice comes up and he's like, no, like, that's all the answers are behind that, you know. And then in the end he rejects those answers after, you know, Brian Cox is stuck to that tree. It's such a good film, and you know, that's the one I go back to more often than any of them. That and Days of Future Past. But it does lead us into talking about X3 or X The Last Stand, or X-Men The Last Stand.
I do want to point out.
Sorry, did you have something?
I do want to point out one thing.
Go for it.
Like, a lot of the newer X-Men films with James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender do that, but you don't really find it in the old ones in air quotes. But
well, they're 20 years. They're over 20 years old.
Yeah,
like, it's totally fine.
But yeah, the thing that I'm talking about is that X-Men as a superhero team or crime fighting team does not really exist to the students. Like, the students are there, and then there's this underground secret fucking fight club that they have with all these with all these teachers. Yeah. And Logan's the only one that's protecting, like, Rogue and Bobby and Pyro, and they go and they find shelter in Bobby's house, and all that happens, and Bobby's brother calls the police. And it's when the police shoots Logan, and Pyro doesn't know that Logan has regeneration powers. No. So when Logan goes down, Pyro's like, fuck this. Yeah. This is where I draw the line, and that's why I love his turn, because he doesn't do, like, Pyro doesn't do much in the third one, but his turn is sold so well, because then like, the mutants are the people that are getting hated on, and they're treated like people who are just so inhumane.
Yeah, they're treated like animals.
And
which is wrong, because animals should have the same rights that we do. But I mean, in people's heads, they're treated like second class citizens. Like their lives aren't as worthwhile as human beings.
absolutely. And it's that one scene that really gets me, because it's like he's been trying so hard to be a part of this cause of being good, but when you see all that shit happen to people that are with you, your friends, you lose it, and it's very well set up, and I love how they did that.
Yeah, it's really well kind of. You know where everybody stands, and by the end of the picture, and that it's okay for people to kind of make the wrong choice as well. Like Pyro's, he's wrong in the sense that he's doing the wrong thing, but Magneto has a point. They are superior beings. They shouldn't rule, but they should find a way to be able to acclimate at the very least, which is what Xavier is talking about. But that leads into, like I said before, into the third picture, The Last Stand, which is about the cure. They've developed a cure, which is a really interesting place to go with this story, and it's the most interesting thing about the film because the execution isn't fantastic around it. It's all like, what's the cool new power now? Like all that guff. What it should be is talking about what a mutant like Beast, played wonderfully by Kelsey Grammer, or at least voice cast well with Kelsey Grammer, what someone like Beast has to go through, and what someone like Rogue has to go to, as opposed to someone like Storm or whatever. They, to be normal, or to be not normal, but to be human and not have powers and not have these so-called deformities because of your mutant traits. What is that? How do you make that decision for yourself? Do you make it for yourself? Do you make it for other people? Rogue, is she making that decision because she thinks Bobby wants her to do it? In the end, it is what she wants. There's a great scene where after Magneto attacks the transport, the prisoner transport, to get Mystique, and they've used the guns, the cure guns, and Hank McCoy resigns from being the whatever he's, head of mutant affairs, and he says, to the president, the decision to weaponize the cure was made without me. So how can I affect policy if I can't, I don't have all the information, which is something that politicians deal with all the time, especially when they have, causes that are divisive like this. And the other part of that really interests me is when Mystique is cured and Magneto's like, you're not one of us anymore.
Yeah.
He's a racist too, just on the other extreme. Yeah. And it becomes his picture again. Like he kind of takes over, which is cool. You get the introduction of some new villains, which are kind of whatever, and you get some new heroes as well. Angel, for instance, who is a character I always loved. I like the idea of having wings. That's a great, metaphor for the little boy in the bathroom, hiding his deformities from his parents. That's really, and then his dad being like, no, we're going to surgically remove these from you, and knowing full well they'd grow back.
Yeah, Angel is a very interesting character because I've always loved to see him, but he doesn't get much to do. Every time I see him,
nothing. Yeah, he gets an intro and then he turns up at the school and he's like, I heard this was a place where mutants were safe. And you want to talk about power in this movie. I know it's silly and I know it's probably the wrong move, and in the end it didn't matter anyway, but killing Xavier, having Jean kill Xavier and have, after that happens, have Magneto and Pyro talking, and Pyro's like, I would have killed him years ago if you'd have told me. And he's like, Charles Xavier did more for our cause than you could ever possibly imagine. Show some fucking respect, you little punk. But to see the result, the house gets torn down, Xavier gets turned into mince, and then to see Storm and Wolverine react to that, I tear up every time. What more do these people have to suffer? How further do they have to go? And then it becomes, all right, hold this line is the line that Wolverine says when they're on, the island, which is, I think it's Alcatraz. and they're like, we're not going to let people get past. We're not going to let people get in here and kill this child whose only crime is that he was born with the ability to nullify other people's abilities.
Temporarily,
yes, but they're like he that can be weaponized and can take people's powers, and that's a really interesting story. I just think that it was, being the director the way that he was, the Hollywood kind of, blockbuster kind of thing, I don't think he had the sensibilities. And for whatever you think of the director of the first two pictures, he is not a straight person. I think he's gay, as I understand. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Maybe he's bisexual, or maybe he's pansexual. I don't know. But he understood some of this stuff a little bit better than maybe the director of the third picture did. It was very glossy. It was a little slapped together. It was going from set piece to set piece. Like, the worst thing you can do is have your screenplay leapfrog from event to event with no thread, with no reasoning for it. Wolverine turns up in the woods to find Jean and ends up getting to a punch on with people that has no consequences. He just gets, his ass handed to him by Magneto, and then Magneto just leaves him. Like, well, that's not what would happen. Like, he would cure him, if anything else, and be like, well, I don't want you to be a threat anymore.
Yeah. The cure thing is very interesting because it also coincides with one of the biggest and greatest X-Men stories ever told, which is the Phoenix Saga. Yeah. And I'm fucking fed up with people, especially directors, giving the Phoenix Saga one film. It's a saga.
It really is. It's 3 films minimum. It's the first one where she gets the powers. The second one, she fucks everything up. And the third one is after she's destroyed a planet, she goes on trial. But the Shi'ai gets her, not the Shi'ai, the Shi'ar? SHI''RA, I think it is. They put her on trial for destroying the planet. Is it Shira? Shiri? I think it's Shia. I'm trying to remember because the cartoon did it. The cartoon, it was nearly an entire season was the Phoenix Saga. I think it's the second season of that show. A lot of it's Phoenix Saga.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe next episode we'll confirm.
We'll come back to that when we talk about it. Yeah, episode 3, and also they did do it in a roundabout way in the last 2 films of the new trilogy, or the new quadrilogy, in the crossover. But we'll get to that. We're on number 3. I'm fine with it. I went and saw it like at a big cinema, and I had a really good time. But it doesn't get me the way that the second one does. It doesn't make me feel the characters. It doesn't make me feel the threat in the same fashion. It's just kind of like, it's very consumable, the way that those comic book movies had started to become, because you had X-Men, you'd had Daredevil, you had the Hulk. Like, they were kind of just getting pumped out the way that they are now. Iron Man does really great, Marvel gets a hit run, and everybody follows suit, and now it's an ocean of this shit. Yeah. You can't see the forest and the trees, and that's what it was like then, until there was a bit of a lull, and then as I said, Iron Man came out. But you said you like the third one. Is there something in particular that speaks to you, or?
Oh no, I said I like the first one the most. And I like Dark Phoenix, which is the 4th one in the new films. In the new trilogy,
okay. So we will come back to that. Yeah, but if you had to rank the 3 originals, is it 1, 2, 3, or is it 1, 3, 2, or how does it go?
It is 1, 2, 3.
It is 1, 2, 3. See, that's interesting, because that's like the thing that sequels do, the diminishing returns. Even though I believe X2 is the superior sequel, I go 2, 2, 2, and the other ones are 2, 1. Oh, sorry, I knocked the mic. 2, 1, 3 is my ranking for those films. I think they're great. They gave us so much. As you can go back to them, they don't age too much. The first one maybe a little bit, but the story is forever. It's why the X-Men have been popular for the better part of 60 years. These things mean stuff to people. And we'll get into a little bit more of that when we talk about them sort of in a broader fashion in episode 3 after we've gone through the movies, because this is a Film Addicts podcast, not just an X-Men podcast. But yeah, so tell us what you think. Come back to us about the X-Men. What are your favourites? How do you rank them? Do you go 1-1-1? Who knows? Who are your favourite characters? Why do you like them so much? Has it spoken to you in a way? Has it helped you find something within yourself maybe you didn't know was there? Did you gain strength from these characters being able to, be who they are regardless of whatever flaws they either see in themselves or that society sees in them? I know it's meant a lot to me, especially when I was a teenager. I was a little guy. I was short and I was chubby, and I hit puberty late, and I was raised by women, like raised by my mum and my sister, and I had like 13 female cousins, so not a lot of male influences around me, but it made me it was really easy for me to talk to women, so I could talk to girls really early, but not like in a way that I was hitting on them or trying to get them in the sack or anything like that. I was just talking to people, but it was never that thing of like guys got shy around girls, or they got alpha males and beat their chest, and guys used to give me shit for that. That was sort of like that was the thing, like, oh, you do a lot of gay slurs and all that stuff, when really they were just envious because they didn't know how to do it. They didn't know how to talk to girls as if they were the same fucking species. So looking at the X-Men, I know what it was like to be teased and be thought I was as different, and then I just came to terms with who I was as a person, and these stories, these metaphors, whether it was X-Men or Spider-Man or any of these things, these moral tales that we get through these things, they really help me.
And we have some interesting roundups that we have to do.
We do, yeah. We're going to do like our best moments, our stuff, our things.
Yeah. So we have top 3 favorite moments and top 3 favorite lines. What do you want to go first?
Well, I've kind of done it in terms of each film.
Oh, okay.
So I've got one for each film. So I've got favorite line and favorite moment from each film.
Sure. Let's go.
Okay. Well, for X, how are we doing it? Do we want to do... do we want to go like you do one, then I do one? Or do you want to go like are yours in line from the movies, or how do yours work?
I can do mine in line with the movies also. Well,
let's do that. Let's go, because then it's easier to break down. Yeah. So we go X1, so X-Men 2000. My favorite moment is where they're in the Rogue and Wolverine are in the car. This is kind of a favorite line as well, but they're in the car and she looks at his knuckles after seeing him fight off those dudes with the blades, and she says, does it hurt when they come out? And he says, every time. Like, I love the idea that this guy's, abilities are painful to handle, are painful to deal with. Yeah, that's incredible. What's your favorite moment?
It's really hard, and I fought myself because I really, really, really wanted to put the evolution speech. That's before anything else starts.
Sure, yep.
But I don't know. My favorite line is the Wolverine. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It just is
the Wolverine. Yeah, and you're like, oh, there he is.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
And yeah, does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. X2 then.
Yeah. X2. My favorite moment. My favorite line. Yeah, I'll do that first. Is when you see Mystique and Nightcrawler together. She's standing in the forest, and he comes up behind her, and he's like, "You can change your shape." Wider. And the funny thing is, in the comics, their mother and son.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting. And it was like, well, no, that can't be the case. But if Mystique can change her look, she can look younger, like, Rebecca Ramone Stamos or whatever her name was. But anyway, that's beside the point. He comes up and says, why don't you just look like them all the time? And she says, because we shouldn't have to. And that's her whole argument. She hasn't been brainwashed by Magneto. She's certainly dependent on him, but that is her own decision. She has been like this. She has had those powers for this long. And that is... yeah, very much her experience of being a mutant. So I love that. and the my favorite moment is after Jean holds back the water so that the Blackbird can take off, and the water collapses on her, and Wolverine starts crying and says she's gone, and Cyclops grabs him and he's like, no, don't say that, you don't say that. And then he just collapses, and these two rivals hold each other, and Wolverine just says, she's gone. It like I'm thinking about it now, I'm tearing up. Like, it still gets me every time. Yeah, really, really powerful.
I was really hoping this wasn't the episode where we collide in picking up favorite moments. That's the one I was gonna pick for the second one.
Of course it is. Like, what else? Of course.
I do have one very big gripe with X2 though that I just remembered. It's the whole franchise, but Jesus Christ, man. They have Jubilee show up in like 2 instances, and they don't call her Jubilee. Like, it's
yeah, they don't.
It's so intentional, because when Storm is trying to rescue the mutants in the cage that they put in, she clearly says Jubilee, but the titles say the subtitles say Julie, and I'm like, why?
Just do it. If you're gonna do it, do it.
Like, fucking commit, man. Because in the first one, there's this girl who dresses exactly like her. And like, she says something to Charles Xavier that we never get to see because it's cut off.
Yeah, and that's also the scene where one of his classes is letting out, and fucking Kitty Pryde runs through a wall.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And Wolverine's like, what the fuck? And it's not it's not
Elliot Page.
Elliot, thank you. I was trying to remember their name, but all I could think of was Juno. What was their name again? Yeah, Elliot Page. Which is who was cast for the third film. Yeah, so you're right though. Jubilee's huge in the comic, in the not the comics, in the TV show. She is who you follow. She's who you first see, and who's the person who gets brought into the X-Men when the Sentinels attack. Oh, that's another thing about the third film.
Oh yeah, it starts off like Days of Future Past, a total fake out.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's up in there the fucking Danger Room, like, you sons of bitches, teasing the Danger Room. But yeah, okay. So what was did you do your X2 ones?
No, I did my favorite moment, right?
Yeah.
My favorite line.
Excuse me.
Fuck. I don't want to do this, but my favorite line is also in that scene where it's Charles channeling Jean and saying goodbye to Cyclops.
Yeah.
These films, man.
I'm gonna go and cry and hug my kittens. I know, man. They're powerful, and they're good actors as well. Like, they're good actors,
and it's
makes all the difference.
It's so great because I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
I just wanted to point out one thing that I really loved about X2 is that we start. I think it's the first one where we start off with the speech of evolution, right?
Yep.
And then that speech is repeated at the end of X2, but by Jean Grey, who then becomes her. I don't know. I lost the word. I know.
Well, you see the Phoenix.
Yeah, you see the Phoenix
water kind of thing, and it turns out she's cocooned herself in that, and then she comes out and she's total dick crazy. You know that scene where she's like trying to get Wolverine to get busy,
yeah.
And I'm like, dude, she's clearly insane. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, I know you're really keen on it and everything, but. My dude, she's telepathically opening your belt. Let's not telepathically. She's doing it with what is it when you can move things with your mind?
It's
telekinesis.
Telekinesis, yeah.
You can telekinesis take your belt off. Like, that's a bold move, Like, I'm all for, sexually liberated people, but she's reading is insane right now, pal. So just maybe make a better choice.
Also, it is that just reminded me. There's this scene I think it's in X. Is it in X2? Where, I think it's right after the Nightcrawler and Mystique scene where Mystique goes into Logan's tent as Jean.
Yep.
And then
and she's like, let's get busy.
And then she turns into somebody else. She turns into Storm. And then she turns...
And then Rogue.
And when it was Rogue, I was like, oh, fuck no, please.
That's gross. That is gross. Jesus Christ. I think Wolverine's other power is that he's got a fucking magic dick. Everybody wants a portion. Everybody wants a portion, I tell you.
Oh, man.
Wolverine, everyone wants a portion. That should be the new one if they do a reboot.
He's hoping...
X3?
Yeah, okay, go on.
No, he is hoping.
He's hoping Deadpool makes a joke about his magic dick in Deadpool 3.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna have a three-way with a brony.
Don't give me hope, man.
Well, actually, Hugh Jackman was being interviewed the other day, and he sort of accidentally let it slip that it involves time travel. Yeah. But I'm like, of course it does. Yeah. The second picture did. He's got the time thing. So, cool. So X3, my favorite line is Cyclops at the start, where he's like talking to Wolverine, and you know, Cyclops hasn't been able to do anything because he's so distraught from losing Jean, and Wolverine's like, come on, man. Like, you've got responsibilities. You're a teacher. And he says, not everyone heals as fast as you. And I love that line because it's not only a dig at I cared about her more. That's why I still hurt. But you're also like, your powers are the problem too. Like you don't care about her because, you know, in 100 years you're still going to be alive, and it doesn't matter. I love that. And my favorite part is where Magneto moves the entire Golden Gate Bridge and fuck everybody. That's terrorism. That is mutant terrorism, and it's a baller move. Not that I'm siding with terrorists, but just that he would do that. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, this is how powerful I am. Don't fuck around.
Yeah. And it's...
that, or maybe at the end where he's lost all his powers, but you just see the little...
Oh, that was so good! That was so good!
Yeah, man.
I'm sorry.
And then it goes straight to the credits, and that great John Ottman score comes up. Yeah, John Ottman as well, like the editor on these pictures. He's also the composer. I think he did the score for the second one and edited the second one. I'm not sure if he did.
Yeah, because that...
I think he just edited the first one.
Yeah, I think that score is not in the first one. And it was in the second one, and I was like, huh. That's the theme for the new X-Men films. And then I rewatched those and I'm like, no, that's the theme from the old X-Men films.
Yeah. It's a really good. It's kind of iconic if you let it seep in. It's one of those real simple chord progressions. What are your X3 businesses?
My X3 businesses.
Yeah.
I also do want to talk a bit about just how Magneto turns on Mystique. Because she's done everything for him.
Yeah.
And he leaves her, and it shows how far gone he is. Like, he used her.
Absolutely.
And it's the one thing that they don't do in the new films, and I really like that because that makes this moment even more powerful.
Well, you do have that moment where she's in the bed, you know, the Jennifer Lawrence's version's in the bed, and not Jennifer Lawrence's version, but Jennifer Lawrence playing this character is in the bed, and he's like, you know, it's become a meme as well. Like, I want to see the real you, and she goes blue, and he's like, perfection. That feeds into that, I think, where she's like, oh, I can be me. They kind of retconned her to be a hero, you know, and they could do that after Days of Future Past because it kind of reset everything. But I thought she was a much better villain character.
Yeah, I wouldn't classify her as a villain, but I would classify her as an anti-hero.
Yeah, or an antagonist at the very least. Yeah, if not a villain, yeah. So, sorry, was that your... I kept fucking knocking everything in this room. What was your third one? What was it? X3. Help.
X3. Help. That should be the title, X3. Help.
X3, help. You had to rebrand it, I think, yeah. What are your X3s?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Alright. My favorite moment in X3. Is it bad of me to say Xavier's death?
No. If you feel that's it, that must be correct.
Because, like, the newer films have a lot of Xavier and Magneto. But these ones, not so much. Also, I just found out Xavier is not he's not an Omega level mutant for some reason.
Okay. You just found out he's an Omega level mutant.
He's not. That's the
He's
thing.
not a class 5 or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, he's just...
Someone comes in, he's like, it's a class 5. Like, hang on, when did we discover this rating system? Is there baseball cards? What the fuck?
I don't know. It might be some bullshit I read on the internet. I don't know.
Yeah, he's got to read the compendium. Okay.
But yeah, like him, he's been like the barrier from the evil to the greatness that the mutant community in that school has. And when he's gone, all these people like Storm and especially Logan, they need to step up to what he used to be and what he meant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing to see how much Logan has changed from the first one to where he's the one saying, hold the line. And it's fucking amazing. My favorite line would be, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Like, how do you put a meme in, you fucking idiots, or whatever the hell it was? I'm the Juggernaut. Like, Vinnie Jones, if you're listening, mate, I'm sorry, but you can't act. You can't act, buddy. I appreciate your enthusiasm and your passion, but you're not a very good actor. Next. I know you did it. That's it. Yeah. Well, there you go, folks. That's the first part of our X-Men-a-thon, where we talk about the X-Men's. It's the first 3 here. Next week, we'll talk about the second, I think it's a quadrilogy, because you've got First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix, yeah. So we'll talk about those next week. But in the interim, perhaps let us know, like I said before, how you feel about these original trilogy. What are your favourite moments? Do you like them? Do you not like them? Tell us why. Come and join in on YouTube or Instagram, wherever you happen to be, Facebook, I don't know. Just send me carrier pigeon me some information about how you feel about it. Send it by boat. I don't even care. Just be involved. But we, send it by tugboat. But come on now. Let's have a chat to our audience with the Q&A section. So how many questions are there today, Eddie?
I think we have 7.
7?
Yep.
All right. Well, let's get busy with it then.
All right. Question 1 is: do you prefer the old or the new X-Men cast?
I don't know. It's two different things. I guess I like the original more because it's, that was my era of X-Men. I think that in terms of acting prowess, they're kind of on par with each other.
I agree.
Like, by the time James McAvoy is Patrick Stewart's age, he's going to be as good as Patrick Stewart, and same with the rest of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fassbender's amazing. His ferocity in we'll get to it next week, but in First Class, the scene where he goes into the beer hall.
I'm so excited.
Forget about it.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be good, man. I got to rewatch them all. What about you? You must like the newer guys, yeah?
Yeah. I love these movies, but the newer ones were my X-Men.
Yeah, I totally get that. Question number 2.
And yeah, the one thing I don't really like about the older X-Men films is that there's no Beast in the first 2. Beast is so fucking amazing in the third one, and I hate that I can't find that jacket that he wears anywhere. I love that jacket. All right, number 2.
Number 2.
Which movie is better between Dark Phoenix and The Last Stand? I want to hear your thoughts first.
Dark Phoenix. It's just better, actually. I don't know what everyone's beef is with that movie. I honestly don't. Like, I don't know why people don't like it. I think they all knew that it was coming to an end because Disney had bought Fox, and they were like, well, fuck it.
Yeah.
But don't fuck it. Look at it as a piece of storytelling. I think it's quite well put together.
Yeah, and I like how it's just dedicated to that. It's not anything else happening. There's no cure for mutant kind. It's the Dark Phoenix, and you have it. It's not the best, but it's the best in the film adaptation.
The fucking train sequence is amazing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know. If you don't like something, that's fine. If you just want to be like jump on the bandwagon of let's hate this thing, then you're an idiot. But if you have a legitimate reason for why you don't like it, that's totally cool.
And I'll get into it a lot in the next episode. But those X-Men films have a very, very there's a tone that goes through all of them, even the New Mutants, where the theme is hope. And it's hope for a better future every single film. It ends with that. That amazing scene where Apocalypse is controlling Xavier. And he says, to all the powerful people in the world, this world will be yours. And Xavier says to all the powerful people in the world, protect those without. And it's amazing. You see the thing that makes, like, down the road, yes, this will be Patrick Stewart, and if it isn't, it's another alternate fucking timeline that we get into in the best X-Men movie.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. And if you don't, that's okay too.
Yeah, that's okay too. It's just we're gonna rave a lot about that one the most.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a little bit of a longer episode next week, I would wager.
All right. Next one is, what underused X-Men character would you like to see have a major role in an X-Men film or their own Disney Plus show? There are too many.
Shit. Yeah, there's a lot. I don't know. I guess the Starjammers are probably pretty cool. Like the space pirates, one of which is Cyclops' dad, would be pretty cool. They kind of did the Hellfire Club, didn't they? Sunspot would be cool. A little bit more. They had him in, briefly in Days of Future Past. Like Bishop as well, to have a larger story around Bishop. I always thought that character was cool. A lot of them have kind of been done, but really, in small ways. But if you're talking about, like launching something new from scratch, if you set up the X-Men in a new Disney produced film and you start to give everyone solo movies, I love Iceman. Like I would like to see the story of Iceman's adventures, That's me.
And Iceman, as you mean the X-Men, right? Not Val Kilmer.
I would like to see Val Kilmer also. I had a dream. I watched, like I said, I watched Kiss Kiss Bang Bang the other day, and he fucking steals that movie. I had a dream that he was all right. I had a dream that he was, after I watched that film that night, I went to sleep and had a dream that Val Kilmer could talk again, because he couldn't because of I think he had throat cancer or larynx cancer or something like that.
Thyroid cancer.
And yeah, thyroid. And it was a beautiful dream. He was acting again. It was wonderful. I know he was a dick when he was in the 90s after he was Batman and really rich and everything, and he was quite crude to people and not a very nice person to work with, but I think he's, in his old age, he's mellowed, and he's a wonderful actor, like a really super talented. If you don't think so, fucking watch Heat.
Or just
shut up and watch Heat.
Or just watch that one scene where he's in Top Gun Maverick, because he doesn't say anything and you feel all of it.
He's great in it, yeah. Or he steals the show in a lot of little things. He's in an episode of fucking Entourage where he's in like 2 scenes and he plays this Sherpa, this weed smoking Sherpa, and he's just fantastic. But anyway, Iceman the character should get a Disney Plus show, and Iceman the character from the X-Men should also get a Disney Plus show. So, what about you?
I already have mine. It was part of.
Oh yeah.
It was part of a pitch, but I'm gonna save out the pitch for something that I'm gonna do it at the end of these episodes that we're doing.
Good call. Yeah, we're running out of time anyway. So,
yeah.
All right then. We'll just go. We'll hold that. Put a pause on that one. We'll come back to it at the end of the third ep.
Right. Shit. Okay. What's your fan?
Question the 4th. Sorry.
What's your fan cast for X-Men for the MCU?
The only one that I have at the moment is the one that was kind of toted around, and that's Taron Egerton as Wolverine. But again, maybe he's a bit too old. Maybe you want to go teenagers. You want to do it the way that they did it OG. In the comics where they were 14, 15 years old. I don't know. But Taron rules.
He does. And
schnicked. Everyone's like, oh, fucking Tom Hardy. I'm like, Tom Hardy's 56 years old or something. Like, it just... Let's think about longevity here, people.
Yeah. He's old enough.
What about you?
He's old enough to be fucking Xavier now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Did you have anyone in your head?
No. I dread this question because I'm too attached to the Fox ones. I'm just way too attached.
I'm interested to see which way they go with it, if nothing else. But I don't. Yeah, Taron Egerton was the only one because I saw it. Someone mentioned it, and they there was a rumor going around that he'd been in a meeting about it with the Feiges, which was probably bold at Ash. But I just saw some fan art and I was like, "Fuck yes!" But also I just watched Blackbird, so I was in a Taron Egerton kind of mood. So who knows?
That works.
Yeah, absolutely does.
My only fan cast would be Emma Watson as Rogue.
Cool. Yeah, okay. I can see that. See that. She'd be a bit older and maybe try the Southern Belle accent, but whatever. Maybe they want to go with a whole bunch of new people who aren't going to be expected. Because the original team was Cyclops, Jean Grey was Marvel Girl, Iceman, Beast, and Angel were the originals. So maybe it's them. Maybe it's those five to start with. You ain't got your Wolverines and your Nightcrawlers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Beast wasn't blue. He had big feet and flipped around. Did he? Just flips.
Man, Beast is so fucking cool.
Beast is baller. Beast balls.
Fuck yeah, Beast balls.
Oh
man.
shit, not Beast balls. That sounds
No. We're sticking with it.
But it sounds like something you go to like a restaurant with, and they're really hot. Can I get the spaghetti with the Beast balls? And there's lots of chili on them. I don't know why.
I don't care. Beast ball exists now, right? And and now
these two beautiful blue plums dangling.
We have to find a way to iterate that in every single episode.
We do. I mean, at some point we bring up male genitals. It always comes up somehow. You change the name of the podcast to the Male Genital Addict Podcast. That's a very different show.
Hey, the Blue,
all right, sorry.
The Blue Balls Podcast. No.
The Blue Balls Podcast.
No.
That's a different one as well. We're not incels.
The Beast Balls.
Beast Balls, the podcast. Sorry, what's question number 6? Oh, God. We've gone silly.
Yeah.
Next.
What version of Wolverine do you guys hope to see in Deadpool?
Honestly, the 70s version from Days of Future Past with the fucking flares and shit. Absolutely. But,
With the bone
that's
claws?
going on 10 years ago now. Yeah, with the bone claws. That's going on 10 years ago now. I'm not sure if Hugh Jackman sort of has the ability to get into that shape anymore.
I think he does. I think that's why he said yes. He misses it.
Yeah. Or maybe it's, maybe it's a bait and switch. Maybe it's going to be the Logan version or, before he dies. Which would take the teeth out of Logan, which I'm not too happy about because that film's really good. Yeah, what about you?
I have a very weird answer for this question. I say a Wolverine we haven't seen before.
Yeah, maybe one from an alternate reality where he was, it's a little bit closer to the original X-Men and he's got the proper... I mean, they're going to put him in the mask. They're going to have to. It's the only time you would have seen it. Yeah, it's I'm ready for whatever form that takes, for sure.
Yeah, the only thing I hope for is that they don't touch anything Logan at all, because that's beautiful with that character, and it just... No.
Yep.
And it looks like they're not doing that. So
don't turn that into a joke. The way that Thanos was turned into a joke by having him be one of the Ravagers in What If, or by just having Infinity Stones just sitting in a drawer in Loki. Like, it just don't take the teeth away from your bigger themes and your bigger ideas.
Yeah.
And the final question is.
What X-Men film character would you benefit? Oh God, I can't do this.
What is it?
No, I really have to, and I'm like, oh shit, my mind's moving forward than my mouth. I can't do it.
Okay. Do you want to hold it up and I'll read it?
What X-Men film character would benefit from going with a lighter tone, like Daredevil and She-Hulk? Or what character would benefit going into a darker tone? I'd say Gambit for a darker tone.
That's interesting. Yeah, Gambit for a darker tone. Angel for a darker tone would be interesting as well. And lighter tone... I like the idea of Dazzler. she's a pop star by night. It's pop star by day, pop star by day, crime fighter by night kind of thing. There's some themes there. It could be interesting, especially around fame and what you show it. Kind of like a Miley Cyrus, was it Hannah Montana kind of vibe going on, something like that.
Jeez, yeah, that would be very interesting.
Yeah, why not?
Or she finds out that she's a mutant in the public eye. And
her powers manifest while in public. Yeah, that's a fucking ooh. Yeah, hi, this is Disney Plus. We're taking that one. Oh, fuck you, Disney Plus. Take all my ideas. I hope you get streaming
balls.
Stiffness. Streaming balls. I hope you get streaming blue balls, you prick. What about you?
What?
What about you with your blue balls? No. It only happens if you're in an accident. Did you? So your idea was, Gambit.
Gambit for a darker tone.
Darker tone, yeah, yep.
Also, going back, my pitch for the Disney Plus show was a Gambit and Rogue show, but it's like WandaVision, and it's
like normal people.
No, let's not do that again, please.
I'd be watching. Yeah, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and like at the end of have it be like fucking 20 episodes, and at the end of the 18th episode you find out that Jean Grey is like trapped everyone in this reality because she herself has been taken over by the Phoenix Force. Cool. And then,
alright, I dig it.
And then Gambit and Rogue have to find every single X-Men within that kind of reality. It's a lot of WandaVision, right?
It is, but there's no new ideas anymore. It's totally fine.
Hey, we live in a world where Aquaman and Namor exist, and fucking Moon Knight and Batman exist, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And also, Jason Momoa is about to be recast as Lobo, so whatever. But I think that's the end. That's the end of our questionnaires. Thank you so much for participating. I hope those answers were satisfactory, and if they weren't, make a complaint to your local Addy, because I won't pay attention to them. But yes, no, thank you so much for getting involved. We do love it. Come back next week for some more X-Men chats. We're going to talk about the next quadrilogy of films with the new cast and starting with Matthew Vaughn's First Class, and then going to I'm not sure who directed Dark Phoenix. How about that?
Yeah, let's stick with that.
Yeah, someone directed Dark Phoenix, and we'll figure out who it is next week. Oh
shit, was that a legit question? Because I do know.
Oh, do you? Who is it?
I think it was Bryan Singer, man.
Bryan Singer directed Dark Phoenix? Yeah. We went the entire episode without saying his name, then we said it twice. Fuck. Anyway, we'll be back, and you'll be back, and it's going to be a good time. Thank you so much for listening. Please do rate and review wherever you get the podcast. It really does help us out. Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube. Thank you so much, all the people using YouTube. We've noticed that there's an awful lot of views on the uploads for that. We hope you're having a good time. We hope you're enjoying it. Putting it on in the background while you're doing the shopping, or putting it on in the background while you're sitting around having some beers with your mates and you want to have a bit of a giggle. Or just we're so happy to have you here. So, Addy, what are you doing? You double checking?
Yeah, just give me 1 second, because it wasn't him. It wasn't him.
No, I know who it was. It was Simon Kinberg, the guy who wrote a bunch of them. Because I was going to say,
yes,
Bohemian Rhapsody had come out by that time, and that was his last picture because it was a disaster apparently, and Dexter Fletcher had to come in and finish it. But anyway, we're not talking. This isn't the Bohemian Rhapsody podcast. Yeah. This is the X-Men's. It's the Film Addicts podcast. Addy, you, my friend, fucking rule.
Nah, man, you're fucking amazing. And also, before you go on, I just want to say, as in just putting out content and creating stuff, it's been one of the best years of my life.
Oh, wonderful.
And I'm so happy to be doing this with you. Where it's amazing, because you sent me that screenshot. It's been 1 year since this idea was formed.
Yeah. I keep a diary, everybody. I make notes about my daily goings on, and I read back the day a year previous. So in 2021, I think it was like December the 24th. December the 20th. No, it was just after Christmas. So it was 26th or 27th of December. So yeah, a year ago from that date was the first time me and Addy talked about doing the podcast. He said he wanted to do something, and then a few months later we finally made it happen. But fuck, it's it's been a hell of a ride, man. But I was just thinking, we're gonna get to the date where it was, the release of the first episode, and we're gonna have to move into season 2. So we're gonna have to big season wrap party. But we'll talk about that at a later date. But I'm so happy you're here, and it's beautiful.
I love you, man.
Love you too, buddy.
I love every part of you.
Even my blue balls.
Yes, especially your blue balls.
Especially my blue balls. All right, folks. We'll see you next time, and do remember.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that's your cue.
Stay amazing and stay safe.